Welcome back! We've departed Temple Island via tram and have arrived at a brand new island, ready to be explored. Well, I'm not going to stand around and wait for something to happen, so I'm going to get on with looking around. And as usual with these forks in the road, I'm going to take the right path first. And thankfully the right path is really short this time. What's that over there? Okay, somebody has embedded this wooden eyeball into this rock. Well, let's see what it does. Well, that was pretty weird. When we touched it, the eyeball flipped over, and it showed a symbol on its reverse end. It looked like a K and an I smushed together, and at the same time, the eyeball played this noise that sounded like a chirping sound. Well, we don't know what either of those things mean, although I suppose that noise could be the sound of an animal here on Riven, and maybe that symbol means whatever that animal is in the language written around here. But whatever it is, we won't really find out right now, so we're gonna have to solve that mystery later on. But I've got a funny feeling that there's more to this than meets the eye. Maybe Gen wants to open a wild animal park around here, and those are his animal sound station things. Okay, maybe not. Well, here's another one of these tram buttons, and I didn't test this out on Temple Island, but I wonder what happens if you press the button while the tram is still in the station. I didn't really want anything to happen to our tram back when it was there before we boarded it, but since we don't need this one right now, I suppose there's no harm in just going back and checking. Whoa! Are you seeing what I'm seeing here? Look at the outline of this cave. The mouth looks like the shape of a frog, and the leg is even right here. But what's really curious about this is that the eyeball that we found earlier is positioned in the exact spot that a frog's real eye would be. That can't be a coincidence. Let's listen to that thing again. I suppose that could be a high-pitched croak noise. But still, why would anybody put that there? I mean, what purpose does it serve, and why would anybody want to draw attention to the fact that it's a frog? Why would somebody go through all the trouble of carving up the cave like that? And the tram's still here, so I guess that button doesn't do anything if it's at the station. Very peculiar, and definitely something we're going to have to keep in mind. Well, there's two choices here. Left goes downward, and right goes upward. You know which one I'm going to choose first. Looks like somebody has lodged some large stick here. Let's see what that's about. It looks like a gigantic spear. Now, if we were to assume that that dagger that we've been seeing all over the place on Temple Island is a symbol of the rebellion on Riven against Gen, then maybe this is Gen's response. Now, what happened here? There's all these trees that have been chopped down. Well, if you've been paying attention, then this would probably look a little familiar. Remember that painting on the gate room, that symbolized how a book is made? The very bottom of it showed a bunch of stumps of trees that were all cut down, symbolizing the fact that those were where paper came from. Has somebody around here been trying to make books? It should come as no surprise that Gen has probably been attempting to do this, especially since he's been imprisoned here for 30 years. Being a dunny master of the art, he'd want to run away and write his way out of here. The thing we don't know, though, is if he's actually been successful or not. Because as I explained at the very beginning of the LP, Dunny requires special paper and ink to write their ages. And of course, Gen would have limited resources here on this Age of Riven. Well, from this vantage point, we get an excellent view of Temple Island, And that bridge connecting it to that other island over there. And right here we can see an axe that's been recently used, I'm guessing. At least nobody's taken it out in a while. And there's a hole in the ground. And I guess we can go on this track here in this box thingy. But after watching Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, I'm not really sure I'm up for that right now. Seems like another mode of transportation that may take us somewhere far away. So I think I'm going to save it as a last resort until I've exhausted all my other options. Just because I want to explore the rest of the island first. Ooh, now what's this here? It's a live-action version of one of those beetles from the gate room. Aw, we scared him off. Oh well, it was nice to see one up close. And it's also nice to see a gate that isn't locked either. Well, this is definitely a change in environment. Looks like we've discovered a jungle garden here. And since this seems to be the distinguishing feature of this island, I think I'll call it Jungle Island. Interestingly enough, this is also the highly vegetated area that we saw from the beginning of Temple Island. It's nice to see that Gen hasn't chopped down all the trees. But if you look around here, you can see that several of these trees have been stripped of their bark. Now, you might remember another painting in the gate room that showed this. Remember the organizational structure painting, in which one of the groups of people under Gen was stripping bark from trees? And we also saw paper flying off those trees. Now, yeah, of course, paper doesn't literally fly off trees like that. But that's meant to represent the fact that that's where paper comes from. Further evidence that somebody around here might be trying to write books. Aw, this is a cute little tunnel here in this little tree. And there's another knife here. This one looks more similar in color to the ones that we've been seeing around here, although we can't see the whole thing. But what's even more interesting is that there's a path here, hidden next to all these plants. Let's investigate. And it has another wooden eye down here at the bottom. That sound was even stranger than the first one. Kinda sounded like a cross between a roar and a bark. Maybe that's the sound that somebody makes when they're getting stabbed with a knife, because there's a knife right here, and there's no animal silhouette that I can see. And maybe that symbol on the back means knife? I don't know. What is rather odd, though, is that this knife here is the exact same symbol that we've been seeing on Temple Island, and it seems deliberately placed here to light this eyeball up. So it seems reasonable to assume that whomever planted this here also planted this here. So if the rebels are behind this, then why are they doing it? It certainly couldn't be Gen. I mean, Gen's constructions are very elaborate and very decadent, whereas these eyes are very crude and simple. So it's definitely not his doing. Still, we're left with the question of what purpose they serve. And right here we can see another one of those spinning domes. And right again, as it was on Temple Island, it's above our heads. Out of reach. Well, this place certainly feels ominous. What is that thing? Whatever it is, it's very imposing and intimidating. It looks like it's supposed to be a statue or totem or idol of some sort. But what exactly is that? Well, let's look at it from back here. Now, if we look at it carefully, we can see two tusk-like things that come out here toward the front, and two pretty wide fins here near the back, as well as an arched section here that seems to suggest a hump. And if you remember what we saw inside the temple on Temple Island, then you might recognize that this is a very stylized version of the works that we saw in there. Now, what I didn't really wonder about back then, just because I accepted the fact that they looked realistic, is just how big those things were. We didn't know if that was the size of them that we saw there on Temple Island, because they did look pretty realistic there, or if they're much bigger. But if they're supposed to be this size, then that definitely explains why the people who live here seem to revere them, bringing them fruit offerings and coming down here to worship a representation of one. Well, there doesn't seem to be much else here. Well, except these cute mushrooms. They even have little fruit things protruding out of them. Hopefully they're not poisonous. I don't know if I like the sound of that. Sounds like this age has an upset stomach. Yeah, we can definitely see the instability of Riven here. There's lava right here in the middle of the age. Can't be good for all these plants around here. Look how black these things are. Kind of reminds me of the chasm in the Selenetic Age on Myst. Well, this gate leads out of the jungle. That was quite a nice trip. Though I wish there were more trees that were still intact. Well, somebody is sounding some sort of alarm or signal or something. Didn't start happening until we walked up, so if somebody lives here, I suppose he's trying to warn them that we're coming. That cannot be a good sign. Normally I'd take the right path, but I've got a bit of a suspicion about where this goes. Yeah, it goes back here to this clear-cut jungle. This was the left fork of the first path that we came across. I guess the fact we can use that if we need a quick way back. But for now, let's continue exploring in this direction. We'll do so in the next video.